Okay. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to our monthly call. Appreciate you taking the time to join in. Let's take a moment if people can just introduce on the chat where they are dialing in from and any top questions that they have coming into the session today so that we know each other better. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen in the meantime.
My name is Rebecca. I come from Tampa, Florida. I used to live in California, and I haven't really connected with the Muslim community here in Tampa yet, and so I'm looking for online lectures and things to go to learn more. And I reverted in 2020.
My name is Miguel. I am in New Jersey. I recently, I'm a newcomer into the religion, and I'm here because I feel like, I've been trying my best, but I feel like I need more advice, coaching. I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, welcome and thank you for sharing. So, inshallah, let's begin. So I have been part of my work in the community space has been, interacting with people who are not Muslims yet and inviting them to Islam, sharing the message of Islam, and then continuing the journey after they decide to convert and become Muslim on how they can gradually actually start practicing Islam. So that's been my focus for the last 6+ years. And I'm happy that the Why Islam is providing the opportunity for me to come on and share some of my experience and some of my suggested plan with my brothers and sisters through the Why Islam platform. So with that, let's begin. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. So that's one of the phrases or words of remembrance that Muslims would typically use, which is I start in the name of Allah, seeking the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our efforts. And we send salutations and greetings to the final messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon him, as well as we praise and we declare all praises are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to start, I wanted to kind of draw our attention to something that we may have all experienced or seen other people around us experiencing. And that's the notion of sometimes something happens in life, an opportunity presents to us, whether it be a job, a business, some small investment, whatever, right? And then people say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to let it go. I don't have time, or I don't have money, or I'd rather use my money on something else. And then they let it go. And then 5 years, 10 years down the road, they realize, hey, you know what? This could have been a great investment. So, and then people then talk about missed opportunities. So that's, one way or the other, I'm sure we have all faced it. It could be investment. It could be something related to health. It could be something related to studies. We always say, hey, you know what? I wish I had started last year. Because today when we think about it, we're like, not today. I'll, whether it be a health goal, whatever it is, we say, okay, I'll start tomorrow. And then 1 year from now, we would be saying, oh man, I wish I had started last year. So this is a beautiful, comparison in which the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and just a quick reminder, sallallahu alaihi wasallam means that may Allah's peace, blessings, and salutations be on the final messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so this is a beautiful hadith from our beloved Prophet, and in which he said and reminded us that, look, the most privileged people, the people who had a lot of wealth, a lot of assets, a lot of different sorts of privileges in this world, if they were to be going to hellfire, then all this would mean nothing. And likewise, someone who has faced most amount of adversities in this world, most amount of pain, most amount of challenges, and as they're dipped into the paradise, they would forget all about whatever they went through all this world. And that's just something, a comparison, a future-minded approach to think about, because sometimes we may be so bogged down about our challenges that we are facing today, what's coming up, the bills, the family, this and that, but we forget the big picture. So that's just something for us to think about, and hopefully the earlier analogy that we gave from this world will help us realize that sometimes there may be something that we think is so big, but in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. And because of that small thing, we maybe just focus too much on it that we forget to look at the bigger picture. Another thing I want to share here is, anybody knows what this is? I know we're all familiar with tap, right? So you can use
The
the
water
tap.
pump. It's like
Okay.
we're like not a well, but a pump to get the water.
Yeah. So what's the difference between this and our potentially automatic sensor detection, or tap-based system in which you turn the tap on and you have water coming in, or you put your hands under the tap and then you have water flowing?
Well, this is manual. You have to do it yourself.
What happens when you stop doing it?
There's no water.
Yes. So that's something I want to remind myself and my brothers and sisters, that whenever you're attending a webinar, a course, a session, remember that it's a two-way street, right? Knowledge can be flowing in, people could be sharing their experiences, their ideas, and so on and so forth. But if you're not pumping, you stop pumping, that's when you start losing the benefits. So it's a two-way street, whatever course, whatever webinar you're on, inshallah. So going back, I think one of the things that happened as a new Muslim, as someone who consciously chooses that, you know what, I need to figure out what my life is about and where am I going? Why am I here? Why is there pain in this world? What happens when people die? Why do people get sick? So on and so forth, right? So Islam gives you a different worldview than what, any other, most other people are living with. So what is the Islamic worldview that we talk about, right? So hopefully a lot of you attending know, but it could be a recap or it could be some new information for some others. So this is an analogy, right? I mean, I'm sure that, pre-COVID or perhaps after COVID, we may have traveled and we go through a flight, we are changing our flights, and then we are at a transit airport. And then we hear the sound that, hey, you know what, due to some unforeseen reason, the flight has been delayed. We'll keep you posted when your flight is ready. Stay tuned. So in this scenario, you don't know when your flight is going to come, and then you have a beautiful airport. There's so many different things that you can do because you have some time now, right? You could use this time to read. You can use this time to meet new people. You can use this time to just do window shopping or actual shopping or eat, drink, relax, whatever you want. But something to remember that is that eventually the flight will be called. You don't know when the flight will be called, and that's when the journey starts. So the example of the believer, or the example of human beings in this world, is kind of like this as a traveler, right? So you're traveling through a transit airport, and then you have different distractions. You could have a plan. If you already have a plan, let's say you're a student or you're doing something, you would maybe utilize some of this waiting time to do whatever you're focused on. And if you don't have any plan, maybe you'll just like chill and relax and entertain yourself, or maybe even lose some money, or maybe even make some bad friends. Who knows what else can go wrong. But from Islamic perspective, this journey, you have this transit stop in this world, and then there's a life of grave, which is one form of life changing into another form of life. It's not the end of life. It's a change, it's a transformation, it's transition. Similar to, we already had another transition when we were in the wombs of our mother. We don't recall much of that or nothing of that, but that was also an existence that we had. And then we had a time where we were infant. Perhaps we don't recall any of that either. And then our early childhood, and so on and so forth. And then this is the next stage of life that everyone has to go through. Okay, not everyone will go through early childhood. Obviously, people can die before that. Not everyone will go through youth or teenage or adult life or an old age life. So that depends. Some people may reach, some people may not. But this journey of going through the grave is something that is inevitable for all human beings. And that could be a business class. I think I can get a better picture for business class these days, but let's bear with this one for the meantime. Or it could be really miserable. Okay, and that's the point. And then when we finally reach our destination, which is paradise, may Allah make us all from the people of paradise, that's when there is no more test, there's no more calamity, there's no more sickness, there's no more taxes, there's no more work. We don't have to do anything. You have made it, right? That's a retirement with good health, with perfect health, perfect youth, your friends around you, and no obligations. You can eat however you like, however much you want. There's no worries of gaining fat or being sick or calorie counting or whatever it is, right? If you make it there. Obviously, there's an alternative, which is eternal pain and being away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the Islamic worldview that this life is not a resort. It's not something, because sometimes people think, oh, why is there pain in this life? Why is there challenge in this life? The reason they are thinking like that is they are equating paradise with this life. Okay, so that's the identity shift, that Allah never said that this is going to be a paradise. Let me give you an example. If you were to meet your friend at your friend's house, do you think, relatively speaking, you would be comfortable? He or she will take care of your water, making sure that you have food, the temperature is comfortable, you're having a nice time. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, now the same friend takes you to gym. Okay, it's not a lazy friend. Say, hey, you know what? Let's meet up for a soccer game. Let's meet up in the gym. Do you think you'll be comfortable?
Probably not.
Yes. So that's the thing. Look, this world, Allah never said that this is a resort. I'm hosting a buffet or I'm hosting a banquet. Come and chill here. This is a place which is similar to how we have in university, how we have in colleges, how we have in gym. It's a training and testing place. Okay, so every day you grow, you're trained with knowledge. As you acquire knowledge, you're trained. As you do reflections, you're trained. But then you're also being tested every day. Every hour of your life is a choice. Okay, right now we are meeting up here Sunday morning for Eastern time zone, right? Perhaps even earlier for other coasts. But however, you could be choosing to sleep, right? Sleeping in, or watching Netflix, or those who are choosing to watch the video recording on YouTube or any other platform. That's the choice that they're making, right? They could be Netflixing, they could be watching TikTok, just having like random videos, which could be stupid videos, but just scrolling around, right? Or just sleeping in, or doing something even worse. But that's a choice that you make. When you have a choice of what time you're going to wake up, will you pray or not? That's a choice. When you had a choice of becoming Muslim or not becoming Muslim, thinking about the purpose of life, thinking about religion, or like the majority of the people around us, not thinking about it, just going with your day-to-day life. That's the choice that we made. So these choices are what gets us either closer to Allah or away from Allah. As Allah, and this is a beautiful narration that we have from the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when you look at commands of Allah, you can think about it as like, hey, you know what? That's another thing I need to do. That's another task I need to do, and check it off. Or you can have this, change in perspective, change in the identity, that when Allah commands you to do something and you do it, you're getting closer to Allah. And obviously, if you don't do it, you're getting further away from Allah. And you keep doing it until Allah loves you. Okay, until you reach this state of being a wali of Allah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes is that I am his hearing with which he hears, and his sight with which he sees, and his hand with which he strikes, and his foot with which he walks. If he were to ask, or she were to ask something of me, I would surely give it to him. And if he would or she would to seek protection in me, I would surely grant him protection. So this is a state that we achieve by making the choices that are in alignment with the choice, with the command, with the preference of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we do those things, then we reach this state in which all of our choices are aligned with the choices and pleasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the mind shift that you can have when you make those small choices, when you decide to stand up, wash yourself, and perform a prayer and dedicate 5 or 10 minutes for the sake of your Lord, as opposed to continuing whatever you were continuing with your life. When you decide to cover up and wear hijab, simple thing, right? People might look at you, but then you're choosing to please Allah over people. So going back on the main topic that we wanted to talk about, I would like you to open up your Quran translation and read to me verse number 4 of chapter 1. Okay, and hopefully those who are following along and watching the recording, pause the video, open up your translation, and look at chapter 1, verse number 4. And that is the chapter that we are commanded to be reciting every day in every unit of the prayer. So that's the really beautiful chapter that should really condition our minds as we practice it and as we keep reciting it. So who's going to give me the translation of verse number 4, chapter 1?
I need to go grab mine, so give me 1 second.
All right, let's do it. We'll wait for you.
Rebecca, if you want, you can go ahead.
I have Master of the Day of Judgment as verse 4.
Okay, what about verse 5?
It is you we worship, and upon you we call for help.
Okay, yes, that's the one that I wanted to point out, right?
Okay.
So that we are repeating it every day, day in and day out, right? And that should be something as we recite it, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. That becomes part of our identity if we are truly doing that. So the first thing of worship, what is worship? Is to obey Allah, is to respect the boundaries of Allah, is to obey Allah with love and humility. So you have love for Allah, and as part of showing that love, you love to do what Allah has commanded you to do. That is worship. But at the same time, it's not a love of being equal to someone. It's a love where you realize that you are the creation of Allah. You are dependent on Allah. You cannot do anything except if Allah facilitated that for you. You cannot have what you want except if Allah facilitated. So that there's this notion of humility and realizing that He is the master and we are the creation. So that's the identity. So when you make those choices that we were talking about earlier, someone who is worshiping Allah will make those choices in line and within the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And obviously, when we do that, that doesn't mean that you don't have any individuality, you don't have your own space, and you don't have your own preferences. Because if you look at the Sharia, the law of Allah, the Islam, it gives you those boundaries and those principles. And within that, you could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, you could be a homemaker, you could be an artist, you could be a businessman, so on and so forth. So you have a lot of flexibility on how you will be living, as long as you live with those principles, those values, and within the bounds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's take a few moments to reflect on who is Allah. Okay, and this is really important. One of the things that we should really do is to learn more about Allah. So first thing we talk about is that He is the only one who deserves worship. What is worship? Is to have utmost love for Allah and to have utmost submission for Allah. He is our Rabb. So that's the Arabic word which is commonly translated as the Lord. However, if you dig deeper into what this Rabb means, it has these three notions that I would like to share with you. One is that Allah is the creator. He is the creator of everything, including this phone. Okay, so there is something that we directly understand, that Allah is the creator. Like, for example, myself, yourself, Allah is the creator of that. The sky, the earth, the clouds, the rain, the fruits. We can see that Allah is a direct creator. Our body parts, like our eyes, our hearing, our hands, Allah is the creator of that. But Allah is also the indirect creator, if you will, of other things like phones and laptops and computers and aircrafts, because the human beings that did that, the human beings that came to those research and conclusions and those theories that led to those creation, the human beings that observed the creation of Allah to create cameras and to create other principles like looking at the bird and understanding them and creating aircrafts and so on and so forth, this is all from Allah. And the ideas and the raw materials that are used are from Allah. And then finally, Allah facilitating you and I to experience those things or buy those things or buy those services is also from Allah. So He is the one who is the creator of everything that we cherish, everything that we want to have. The second thing is that He is the continuous owner. So from a worldly perspective, yes, we tap our card, we swipe our cards, or we do some digital transactions, and then we buy things. But Allah is the one who is the true owner, because everything that we use to make that transaction is from Allah. So like the whole, and this is another understanding, like starting from the human being, we think that this is my body, this is my ears, this is my eyes, I can do whatever I want with it. That's one way of thinking about it. The other identity, the identity of success, is to think that it's from Allah, it's a trust from Allah. Like, if I were to use an analogy, and there's nothing similar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like a father or a mother giving $10 or $5 to a child and seeing how they use it. What do they use it to buy? Like, how do they invest it? How do they buy it for instant gratification? How do they use it to help other people, and so on and so forth? Or another example, if a friend was to say, you know what, I'm traveling, I have my car parked in my garage, you know what, I'm away for a few months, you can use it. It might help you and your family. Use my car. Now, if you're using the car properly and you're a good person, you would not, get the car into an accident. You would not drive it crazily. You would take care of the car, and so on and so forth. So that's just something to think about, that all these things that we have, Allah is the continuous owner, even though from a worldly perspective, yes, I am the owner, you are not, or you are the owner, I'm not. But the eventual owner is Allah, and everything is a trust and a test from Allah, that how do we use the resources and the assets and the things that Allah has given us. And then lastly, so yes, I become this owner, right? Or I have a child, or I have a car, and I kind of own this thing, and I have ability to make decisions about those things. However, I cannot protect them, can I? If something were to happen, do I have the full protection, full control over their future? So Allah is the one who is the arranger of all affairs. He's in charge of all affairs. He's the sustainer. He's the nourisher. So nothing can happen to his creation except if Allah allows that to happen. So I want to be rich. If everybody, let's say, supports me, yeah, you know what, we're going to support you, we're going to support your business, and you'll be rich. I cannot cross the threshold of the amount that Allah has written for me. I can try, and I should try, but I cannot have it unless Allah allows that to happen. The same thing, someone was trying to harm me, or this COVID, or this corona, or there's this disease, or there's this virus. It cannot harm me and cannot become sick unless Allah allows that to happen. And if Allah allows that to happen, He has a wisdom behind it. Any questions about these 2 points?
No.
Okay. And then He's the most merciful. Sometimes we human beings start thinking that, oh, how come this person is going to hellfire? Or how come this is happening? How come this person is suffering so much? So we think that as if we are more merciful than Allah. No, never. The mercy that we feel is a creation of Allah. The combined mercy of everything on this universe is one of the 100 parts of the mercy of Allah. So let's not think that, oh, as if we are apparently becoming more merciful than Allah. And obviously He has a perfect life. He doesn't die. He never ceased to exist. He has always been there. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't become unaware. He has complete authority. No one can change what He wants. He has complete knowledge of what's happening, what we are doing, how hard we are trying, what efforts we are making. People may not have that appreciation because people usually judge by results. But Allah sees the efforts that we are putting in. Allah sees the challenges that we are overcoming. And all these attributes are unique and exclusive to Allah. And He is not in need for us to worship Him. Us worshiping Him doesn't make Him any more powerful. Another point, that Allah is most powerful. So if whatever you want, that's something in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not obey the creation of Allah while displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And here's another interesting thing that, to think about when we think about our identity and our relationship with Allah, that Allah has 2 types of wills, 2 types of commands, if you will. The one is the universal commands, and they will happen for Muslims, for non-Muslims, for an obedient person, for a transgressor, for a rebel. Anybody and everybody is under that command. When were you to be born? When will you die? When will you get sick? When you will be healthy? When will you lose a loved one? So on and so forth. Anybody, regardless if you believe or obey Allah or not, you're under that command. The other type of will of Allah is the legal will of Allah, which is what we call Islam. Live your life according to these principles. Do this, don't do this. This is fine, this is permissible, this is recommended, this is not recommended, this is disliked. All this is part of the legal will of Allah. And that's, again, connected to what we talked about earlier, the choices that you make. When you worship Allah, the choices that you make is to respect this legal will, for which you have a free will. You can choose to obey, or you can choose to disobey. And all these wills, commands have a justice behind it. It's not random. They have a justice and wisdom behind it. So that's just in a nutshell to know Allah. And if you want to know more about Allah, learn more about attributes of Allah, then I have suggested this PDF and this YouTube playlist that will help you learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will have the links to the slides, so you'll have all these links as well. We'll also put it in the video description, so those who are watching online can get that, inshallah. Okay. So any questions about some of the attributes that we talked about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
No, so far.
Okay. And when you observe this identity of being a worshiper of Allah, you not only benefit in the hereafter, that you have paradise that you will be chilling in with your loved ones, but you also benefit a lot of fruits in this world. The contentment that comes to you when you realize that Allah is in charge, everything has a plan, everything has a wisdom behind it, it will all be fine. That trust, that that dependency on Allah, not needing to control every aspect of your life, that is really, really beautiful. Okay, when you look forward, that you realize that, you know what, I have something to look forward to. Many people look forward to retirement in this world, but then they're also concerned about their health and their wealth and their finances and the cash flow. When you look at the retirement in the paradise, that gives you something to be excited about and to look forward to. You have a bigger picture, right? So that helps you with your emotional stability, that you have a bigger picture of life. You're not very narrow-minded. You're not stuck in the past. You realize that whatever happened in the past was meant to happen, and there's a plan for it. There's a wisdom behind it. So some of the things that we can do to establish this identity of being a successful human being and being a worshiper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to connect with the book of Allah, because there's nothing like it, right? These are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you admire someone, right? These days, if you admire someone, you admire a personality, you admire a celebrity, what do? We go, we watch their podcasts, we read their books, we watch their interviews, because we want to see how they think, what are their tips, what are their advices for others, how did they become so successful, so on and so forth. So the speech that we have access to, the direct speech, is the speech of Allah. So one of the things that we can do is to create this habit of regularly reading it and realizing that just by reading and listening to it, it itself is a cure for our internal and external diseases, as promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a source of happiness, as promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as you're reflecting on those verses, is to think about something. What does it tell me about Allah? What is it reminding me about Allah? Who are the people it's talking about? What qualities is it talking about? Do I have those qualities? How well do I deploy and manifest those qualities? Who does Allah love? What qualities does Allah love? Who are the people that Allah does not love? Is it reminding me to focus on something? Sometimes I may say, hey, you know what? Remember this day that is to come. Remember the time of your death. Remember the time of day of resurrection. Remember when Allah will say this to the creation, and so on and so forth. Maybe it has a promise that those who strive, those who work hard, those who are patient, those who do righteous deed, I will give them such and such. Okay. Sometimes it gives you a mindset to look at things in a different perspective. And you can use this thing to say, okay, you know what? How would I use this to advise myself? If you can't think of yourself, say, okay, how would I use this information to advise a friend of mine? So as an example, you know what, if you think about it, it says that, Allah is able to do all things. Okay, so what do you learn about Allah is that He is able to do all things. How would you turn that into a practical advice? Or to deal with a practical situation? Yes, that's the question. I'm going to wait for an answer. I'm going to have some water.
I'm not sure how to respond to that, to be quite honest.
Me either. Can you?
Okay,
ask
sure.
them?
So think about it, right? So like, do we feel, or we ourselves or friends, do we feel sometimes stuck that we want something to happen, but we don't have a way, right? We don't know how it can happen, right? It seems impossible. Or people of expertise, subject matter experts may have said, you know what, that can't happen. You know, there's no cure for this disease. You know, there's, you know, you have been so miserable, there's no way out. So that reminds you that, look, Allah is able to do all things. Yes, the doctors may not be able to, the teachers may not be able to, but Allah is. So that gives you a motivation, and that gives you an inspiration to think and set the bar higher. That, look, Allah is able to do all things. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to ask Allah. He'll find me a way out. Okay. Another place, for example, when you see that Allah is merciful and Allah is all forgiving. So from that, you can say, look, you know what? Like when you commit a sin, now you have two options. Either you go back to Allah, you commit a sin again, you go back to Allah, or you say, you know what, that's too much, there's no hope for me, I'm done. Okay. But when you read the verse that tells you Allah is very forgiving, that reminds you, you know what, I have a chance, I can rebound, I can reset, I can, just like someone who is tired and, you know, dusty and may have worked out a lot, but they can just go and freshen up by taking a fresh shower, and then, you know, or having a nap and then waking up and restarting. Similarly, someone who has erred, have disobeyed Allah, can refresh and can reset by, you know, focusing on the forgiveness of Allah. So this is again an example, right? That sometimes we prefer the short-term gratification, like the child may prefer balloons over keys for a luxury car, because the child doesn't realize what the key symbolizes. So, you know, to figure out, to have that sort of long-term thinking and saying, yes, this will give me instant pleasure, but am I giving up something that's supposed to give me long-term pleasure and something that's way more valuable? And, you know, this is something that, another thing that happens is basically, you know, continuing on talking about the Quran, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that I'll teach you some words, and if you were to say that, Allah will replace your sorrows with, you know, with happiness, with contentment. And this is a dua that he's taught us, right? This is a translation of the Arabic dua. And as we reflect on this, you realize how much emotional mastery you can achieve. So it says that, oh Allah, I am your slave. Okay, so that's the notion of humility, that, look, I appreciate that you created me, and I'm here to live my life and to use what you have given me in the way that you have commanded me to use it. That's the notion of a slave. And not only me, but I realize that my parents are your slave as well. They are your creation. They are your servants. Whatever they have is from you as well. Okay, now this is a typo here. Supposed to say, my forelock is in your hand. Okay, so what that means is that you have full control over me, right? So if you want, I can be successful, I can be happy. I realize that you have full control over me. Yes, I do have free will, but your will is above my own will. And whatever you command for me will be executed. Nobody can nobody can prevent it. And whatever you command is also just. So I also understand, appreciate, and acknowledge that all that happens to me is from your justice. It's not something unjust. So knowing this is who Allah is, then you ask, oh Allah, I ask and I invoke you by all your names that belong to you. Some of these names I know in your book, some of these names I don't even know, some of these names none of the creation knows, only you know. So with all these, what is my ask? My ask is that you make the Quran the life of my heart, the light of my chest, and an end to my sorrows and a release from my anxiety. Because Allah can make that happen. Okay, just like that child that we were seeing earlier, you know, a child may be crying, and then you show them some colorful balloons, they may stop crying. Why? Why does it not happen to us? Right? That's the nature that Allah has created them with. So we are asking that Allah to make our source of comfort, our source of happiness in His book. So we're not dependent on acquiring this object, or acquiring this handbag, or this shoes, or this car, or this vacation package. Yes, those are great things, but I'm not dependent on that. So that's a beautiful dua to utilize. So as you look at this, right, it teaches you who is Allah, the power of Allah, who am I, the decree of Allah, the command of Allah, and what you're asking. And look, every time you make dua, it has impact. So don't think you make it once and then boom, it will be a light, like a light switch moment. Now keep asking, be consistent, and also know what you're saying and do your best to behave in that fashion that you are a servant of Allah. And you realize the power of Allah, you realize the justice of Allah, you realize the mercy of Allah, and you are making effort to connect with Quran. And there's another benefit. There are many, many beautiful du'as like this that we can learn. There's many apps now. You can read the Arabic, you can listen to it, you can reflect on the translations. So I've made some, one of the things I do, and inshallah we'll share it on the platform as well, is to have these conversations with converts where we, go through some verses and we discuss them. We talk about the points that we just mentioned earlier. How does it help us to be better, and so on and so forth. So one of the action item I would highly recommend that you do as you watch this or after this or pause this and think about it is to block like a 5 minutes where you will actually read the translation, listen to the Quran, and think about it. Okay, so any questions about the relationship with Quran before we move on to the next section?
No, I don't think I have a question.
Okay. The second thing is make your life easier by surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. Okay, and they can serve different function, right? Just like this cat, right? She is choosing the mirror and how she views herself. There may be some people that may be making fun of your religion, of your new choices that you are making. So do you have to use them as your mirror? Do you have to trust, do you have to take your validation from them? Are you making your life easier or harder by doing that? How do you value yourself? How do you see if you are successful, if you are strong, if you are smart or not? One option is, again, to use Quran to be that judge, to be that reflection mirror. Use the qualities that are mentioned in the Quran and see how well you're doing about it. Okay, so think about who you are waiting on validation and how you're reacting to people's comments. And people can have different perspective, right? Two people looking at the same thing, one can say it's 4 and the other can say it's 3. It's just a different perspective. Does that then the question becomes like, what is the truth, right? Someone may say you're a mashallah righteous person, you made a great choice. Someone may say, what, you become Muslim, why would you do that? Now you're gonna be not successful, like you have become one of them, you have become the other group. Okay, so who are you listening to? And then again, it's not just like the friends, right? Now you have digital friends as well, the WhatsApp groups that you're in, the Facebook groups that you're in, the Muslims that you're hanging out with, right? The different ads that are coming to you, and so on and so forth. So see where your content is coming from. Is it beneficial? Is it true or not? Okay. The other thing, which is I think is a common blocker to living that identity of being a successful human being, which is that you worship Allah and you seek help from Allah and you make dua to Allah. Just like how we saw that dua about asking Allah to make Quran the source of your happiness. Maybe you don't find it as a source of your happiness today, but that doesn't mean that you should stop asking, right? So there's two notions, worshiping and asking Allah for assistance. The other stuff that happens, I think is a very common thing, is people think that, okay, I'm either going to do everything or I'm going to do nothing. So maybe you intend that, okay, I will wake up and I'll pray 5 prayers tomorrow, but then you wake up late and then you miss your Fajr, or you commit some other sin. Now you have two options. Either you can fix the rest of your day, right? Think of your choices in blocks of hours, right? What are the choices I'm making this hour? But what happens, sometimes people make one wrong choice and then they give up. The whole day they give up, the whole day they are living the day of disobedience. Because just because you made one wrong choice doesn't mean that the rest of the 23 hours has to be wrong choices as well. So it's okay that, yes, we will fall down. Yes, we will miss out on things. Yes, we will miss out on commands. We don't intend to, but it will happen. And when that happens, what should you do? How fast can you rebound? How fast can you bounce back, ask Allah for forgiveness, and move on? Okay, and being assertive, right? So if someone is pushing your button, someone is asking you to do too much, someone is criticizing your choices, make sure that you can be assertive, whether it be your friends or colleagues or even the Muslim community or the non-Muslims around you. So this is the concept of rebound and reset, right? So we all know about the New Year resolution. That's a very famous thing, right? But why do we have to wait once a year? You can bring it down to monthly or weekly or daily. And as I was saying earlier, hourly, right? Make good choices every hour. If you miss out on something, utilize the next hour. And having rebound ritual is very important. So what would you do if you commit a sin, right? So perhaps you say, you know what, I'm just going to go take a shower or do some exercise, go in nature, right? I'll sit down and do some dhikr, remember Allah, read Quran, listen to Quran, make some dua to Allah, talk to Allah, ask Allah for forgiveness. Maybe I'll offer 2 extra voluntary units of prayers. So having a ritual like this, that gives you, okay, look, I fall down and boom, I'm going to get back up and get moving towards good things. And another very important point is that I think I mentioned this earlier is, look, Allah is seeing the efforts that we are putting in. People usually cannot, they look at the results, right? So someone coming in new to the religion, they might be saying, you know what, I can't pronounce proper Arabic. You know, this person is pronouncing this amazing Arabic, but Allah is going to reward you based on your effort. So if you make time for Salah, you pause your life, you make, maybe you're struggling, maybe your pronunciation is not great, but your reward can be way higher than the person who has great pronunciation but is not focused, not making any effort, is thinking about a bunch of other stuff. So remember that Allah is appreciating your efforts. It's not like a sales role where you only make money if you make a sale. Allah is appreciating your efforts. And having a combination as you do your learning, having a combination of technical learning, right? Like how do you pronounce things? How do you do the right motions? And the spiritual learning, which is to know Allah, who is Allah, the promises of Allah, the situation of the day of judgment, the hellfire, the paradise, and so on and so forth. So one thing which is really important, I think, these days is that most of the time in our work or when you turn on the TV or whatever, most of the time you won't see content or people talking about God or Allah or hereafter or values or morals. So you have to surround yourself with content, whether it be books, YouTube channels, courses, different things like that, that can help you focus and remind you about who is Allah, the reason, the purpose of us being here. Because we get distracted, right? When you're always seeing ads of different things, different people are trying to sell you different things. If you're not surrounded with the right content, you will easily get distracted. And the worst state in terms of the relationship with Allah is this. That look, Allah does not change a favor that He has granted to anyone, except if they change what is within themselves. So a miserable state to be is that you don't feel the love for Allah. Your hearts or my hearts become sealed. We don't think about goodness or badness. Even if we listen to a lecture, it just doesn't affect us. And it becomes really hard for us to do good deeds, to live a life according to the commands of Allah. So to avoid that state, we have to take ownership. We have to repent as we do wrong thing. We have to see where we are going. We have to have that sort of discipline. And we have to raise our standard. Okay, everybody has a standard, right? So for example, there are certain things that you would never do. Even if you're hungry, you would not eat a rotten apple. Or you may not go and beg on the streets. Or you may not, whatever, right? People have their standards, right? Sometimes it would be like, if I make a promise, I will deliver on my promise. I'm never late. If I commit to something, I'm on time. So people have these standards that they have and they become their must, right? So raise those standards to what you want your life to be, what you want to have accomplishments on your life, and be disciplined about it. It's a beautiful quote, right? A friend will not share your struggles, and a loved one cannot physically take away your pain, and a close one will not stay up the night on your behalf. So look after yourself, protect it, nurture it. Don't give life's events more than what they are really worth. Right? So sometimes thinking too much about any event of the life. So continuing the quote, be certain that when you break, no one will heal you except you. When you are defeated, no one will give you victory except your own determination. Your ability to stand up again and carry on is your responsibility. Do not look for your self-worth in the eyes of people. Look for your worth from within your consciousness. If your conscious is at peace, then you will ascend high. And if you truly know yourself, then what is said about you won't harm you. So do not carry the worries of this life, because this is for Allah, and do not carry the worry of sustenance, because it is from Allah, and do not carry the anxiety for the future, because it is in the hands of Allah. Carry one thing: how do I please Allah? How do I make choices in this moment? Because if you please Him, then He pleases you, fulfills you, and enriches you. Do not weep from a life that made your heart weep. Just say, oh Allah, compensate me with good in this life and the hereafter. Sadness departs from a sajda, from a prostration. Happiness comes with a sincere dua. Allah does not forget the good you do, nor does He forget the good you did to others, and the pain you relieved them from. Nor will He forget the eye which was about to cry, but you made it laugh. Live your life with this principle. Be good even if you don't receive good, not because of others' sake, but because Allah loves the good doers. So as you make those plans, as you raise your standard, make sure that you have a routine of assessing yourself, looking at the habits, reviewing your day, your progress, and seeing what is blocking you. Is it friends? Is it lack of awareness? Is it lack of reminders that prevent you from achieving the habits and the goals that you desire to achieve? Okay, just having this time to do these weekly audits, having a mentor, having an accountability partner can also help. This is details in terms of a new Muslim starter pack, in terms of, step-by-step instruction, classes, courses, habits, and then also leading you to further education as you move along the pace and you acquire the basic knowledge. And these slides will be available from this link, which we will put in the video description as well. And I'm going to put this right now in the chat. I think I should be able to copy link. Okay, so now this is time for questions, or what's your key takeaway from today's session?
I don't think I have any questions regarding what we talk about today, or what you talk about today. We were more of listeners than anything else, but regarding what it was explained today, I don't think I have any questions.
On the previous slide, it said to be good even though you may not receive good, or just be good anyway, is what the takeaway I got from that.
Yes.
And I thought that was very profound. In the last couple of slides, there were some very profound thoughts that we went through pretty quickly. So I look forward to being able to read the slides again and reflect on those ideas.
Great. Miguel, do you have any specific takeaway, anything that attracted you from today's session?
I guess the only takeaway is similar to what I do when I pray. I guess when I pray at night before I go to sleep, I always ask for the things that I want, but then I also say, this is what I want, but what I need. And as much as I can say, hey, I want this, I want that, I want this to happen, there's a reason why you do things. So, I'm just telling you what I want, but you know what I need, and on my heart, what I need. So, that's why I go with my praying. I think it's very similar to what we talk about. We can ask for a lot of things, but in reality, only Allah knows what we need in this life. So, as much as we pray, we also, whatever we get, we need to be grateful for.
Very good. Yeah, just trusting in that plan of Allah, and also knowing that we have blind spots that we can't even think about what we need. And very good, mashallah. Great. Okay. Great. Jazakallah khair, everyone. I appreciate you making the time again this weekend morning. And I hope that Allah writes this as a good deed for all of us and to make it beneficial and to have it transfer into our action and our life going forward.
Before we go, and I'm sorry if I'm taking everyone's time.
No.
I have a question. So for those of us that are newcomers, and we want to get more, I guess I reached out to my local mosque, and I've been, I'm doing my Arabic classes with them. So they're pretty good. What else? What other resources do we have in when it comes to questions? Because we go throughout our day, and there are things that I always have questions. What resources do we have?
Okay, for questions specifically?
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, so some options that I think are there are so there's a website called Amja, and this is very I'm going to type it in the chat here.
Mhm.
And this is like a focus on like a group of scholars who are living in the West, especially North America, coming together. And for example, and if you search on their website for anything specific, you would find like, very relevant text-based answers. I think they also have what is called a Q&A line, or the fatwa line that I'm also putting in the chat. And some other channels that I'm aware of that have good answers, very relevant to our scenarios, is like, which I'm also putting in the chat here. And there's another one. So these are YouTube channel with a lot of, already pre-recorded things. And then for a call base, it's like, the Amja Fatwa line. And then you have also like recorded and text-based Q&A.
And I suggest something that helps
Yes.
me a lot.
Yes.
I saw on one of the previous slides, you mentioned the New Muslim Academy. And that's a website you can sign up for free. And there's a whole lot of courses that are completely free. I'm sure you can donate and in gratitude, but they're all free courses that you can do modules, and they're pretty short modules. So you could do, it's very easy to do one a day, because it really takes, you watch a 7-minute video and then there's a short quiz. And they also have a really good video on how to pray. They have really good videos. And then they have, after you get through the basic set of courses, which like I said, are like 10 minutes long, they're really short modules. Then there's Introduction to Islam, and they go on with a little bit more in-depth lectures, which are nice. But if you get the basics first, then you don't get overwhelmed when you get into more complicated stuff. And I'm like still at the bottom level. I'm very basic here. I'm still just starting to learn, but that helped a lot for me. I mean, and it gave me something to do every day, which is nice.
Yes, that's
New Muslim Academy. Okay, I found it.
Do they have like a Q&A session sort of thing as well, or?
They have some live events like on Zoom, and they have, but I've never been able to get that in my schedule because of my work schedule.
Right.
And then they have the online courses, and then I just haven't explored it past that, because I've been trying to get through the courses and then see what else they have. I think they have a forum.
Yes.
It's not a chat, but it's a bulletin board forum type thing where you can also go look up questions, and that's a little bit of a mishmash of everybody though. So some of the other sites where there are actual scholars are probably a better resource for definitive answers. But yeah, so I mean, you just make a quick little account, and then you have access to just about everything. And I didn't see, there might be something you have to pay, but I didn't see anything that was paid.
Yeah, I don't think, there's nothing there. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is, I'm just showing on the screen right now the starter doc that I shared earlier. So see, like when it comes to, like I said, look, firstly is like content, right? The basic thing, like surround yourself with good content, as the sister suggested, for example, New Muslim Academy as an example. And then I've also compiled this playlist of, I just shared this playlist, not compiled, of prayers, right? So the one in this English one is I think a good translation, a very rhyming translation of the prayers that the Prophet used to use. Same words, but translated into beautiful English. And the next one is basically in Arabic with English subtitles. So these are like, give you a good way of conditioning and communicating with God, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and then obviously the next step is to learn the don'ts and how to pray and so on and so forth, having some goals for yourself and reviewing your goals. So these are the 4 strategy approach that we have. And for content, I think as the sister mentioned, so we have New Muslim Academy listed here. Then IRA also has New Muslim online courses. I'm not sure if Why Islam has online yet or not. And Islamwise also has online courses. So these are 3 resources where you can go through like a good amount of basic content debate, and it will also answer your basic questions. If you want something even simpler, then I think Yaqeen has an app that you can download, so you don't even have to go through YouTube, because once you go through YouTube, it becomes like a big rabbit hole, one video after the other. So it's like very contained in an app, 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day, and then you can cover a lot of good content. And then these are again well polished, high production quality content on these YouTube channels. And if you're more of a reader, then you have a New Muslim Guide as a PDF. So you have these online courses, you have these apps, or you have YouTube series, or if you just want a PDF, then the PDF is also linked for you. As for the prayers, this is the approach we use. So again, you have multiple tools depending on your learning style. So one is a transliteration. Now this transliteration is relatively different than what you may be used to, because I've made it in a way that is syllable by syllable. And I think, let's see if we can quickly load up. So as you can see here, I want to test it actually. Like it's broken down by syllables, right? As opposed to word, which is what you may see commonly used in books. And then I want to show you something real quick. And each of those lines are recorded in a short audio, right? So each line I slowly recite it, and I explain to you why I've written it in using the English letters that I have, what it means, how it empowers your mindset. So that's also linked there. And then I think apps are great. So this is my top recommended app. It's called My Prayer, and I have it for Android and Apple. Both are linked here. The only thing to be careful about the My Prayer app is the timings are not right, especially for Fajr. So for the time prayer times, I would probably suggest using the app Adhan or something else. And if you want more details about the prayers, again, you can have text-based. And if you want to know about the Islamic ritual bath, then I've linked that video here for you. And this whole document, I've walked you through it in this video here. So I've shown the apps. I've just slowly walked through the document. If anybody's interested, this is linked at the top of this document. And lastly, let's say, inshallah, in some time you will cover all these things and you want to learn more, you can go under, more intermediate resources. And then here you would see, like, I talk about building good habits, WhatsApp notification for new Muslim content, some other social media channels to subscribe to, some good series, 6 Pillars of Faith, What Does Allah Love? I've compiled some good series for you. And then let's say if you want to learn online Arabic, how to read Arabic. So alhamdulillah, I see good that you're already going to a masjid for it. Things like that, more structured degree programs. Again, the path is endless, right? But that's all sort of kept here, inshallah.
Where do we find this document that has all these links? Is it going to be linked?
Yeah, so this is already linked into the slide.
Okay.
So let's see. So this is in the slide, it says New Muslim Starter Pack. So that takes you to this main document. And then this is all the links. And now that you asked this question, I think this is really good. So what I will do, Miguel, is I'm going to hopefully, I'm thinking I think I will probably put these links for Q&A websites in this intermediate doc, I think, as people look for that. So that will be probably a good resource to have.
Can you show the link again, that previous?
Yeah, here.
Yes, I want to take a screenshot. Thank you.
Yeah. So you have the link to this slide that I was sharing, right?
Yes, I just took a screenshot of it.
No, I mean.
Oh, is it in the chat?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh, let me get that.
So there's two. Yeah, there's 2 links, right? So I just put this link in the chat right now, but then,
Perfect.
but there's also this link this link, Unlock Paradise on Earth, that will take you to the slides.
Great. That's wonderful.
Okay, great. It was a great. Really happy to speak to all of you. So George asked, so I'm not sure. I think YIslam probably does every week or not. I'm doing once every month. So this is the fourth Saturday of October. Then I'll do another one on the fourth Saturday of November, and then I'll do another one, inshallah, in December, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And yeah, I think my contact information is here somewhere too. If you want to contact any further, yeah, that's also on the slide somewhere. No. Okay, maybe, yeah, there you go. My contact information there. Okay, great. Thank you. I know we went a bit over time, but it was really lovely talking to you all, and I hope to keep in touch. And may Allah bless us all and make us all successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bye.